So they say, who made 90s Gor Gor? I did. I made all versions, except the first one. I made all versions. I will say this. There was a kind of a zombie Gor Gor in between the parrot-shaped one of the mid-90s. Oh, wait. I forgot. Scott Krall took the 90s or early 80s, late 80s Gor Gor, the kind we say the parrot one from America Must Be Destroyed. He took that and he put engine parts in it. He modified a pre-existing Gor Gor of mine and put the engine parts in its nose. And at one point, there was a kind of, he made a red Gor Gor that was the Gor Gor that I designed, but wasn't able to finish because I had some pre-existing responsibility that I had to go through with. So he had to finish that, and that one's very forgettable. You don't see that one much. You probably find a live show of it in performance. And then the final 2000s Gor Gor, I did that one as well. So I did basically the two versions that matter. Funny how I ended up with that position. I did the only two that matter. Late 80s, early 90s Gor Gor, and 2000s Gor Gor. So, there we go. There we go. I got to toot my horn now, because nobody does it. It's like one of the things about being in GWAR that, you don't think about, but kind of regret later on. Stuff that you do, you don't think about at the time, but regret later on. And that's, I used to do a fair amount of interviews. They like to have a cadre of people, 3 or 4, do an interview, because, it made more lively sometimes. But Dave was, of course, by far the best at it. And, as an artist, you have a lot of responsibilities that day, too. And sometimes you have things, you got repairs you got to make, and maintenance. And and then you get tired of doing it. Honestly, there's a lot of the same shit. A lot of the same shit. So tell us, well, how did GWAR start? Or, what is your influences? Just stuff like that. And you've done those, and you've come up with a kind of a bunch of answers that are really in character. So they kind of become. They're kind of like you're doing the same thing over and over, frankly. And it's difficult to talk about, honestly about the project. Artistically or musically, it becomes hard to talk about the project. And we didn't start kind of like letting that curtain go down until much later. But because Dave was doing the interviews so much, people just kind of thought that, he basically thought of everything, which wasn't true. Here to say that. And I think every GWAR member would agree. He did not think of everything. And in fact, he did not even think of major aspects of it. The whole story from Skullhead and Face was concepted by me, Bob Gorman, and Chuck Varga. We came up with all the basic concepts and characters in that. The Professor Skullhead Face and the Butthead Queen and Gizmoglobin and Boss Glom and all that basically that the whole Gizmoglobin being in these rock stars and stuff like that. We came up with that, but my point being is that by allowing Dave to do all the interviews, and you just kind of forgot about it. Your horn doesn't get tooted, frankly. It's just sort of like, we did this. And when people hear Dave always doing the interviews saying we, they start to think that basically it's him, which is natural. I mean, he's the face of the organization, and definitely amazingly creative person. But, just a lot of basic elements of this whole thing was not invented by him. He did not invent spew. He did not invent the effects. He did not invent the characters. He invented his character. He might have invented a few other side characters that showed up later. Things like Jitler, certainly. Jucifer. I love Jucifer. That was his creation, I think, whole cloth. Love that. Love making that, too. And I'm so mad that Gor has not done a Jucifer show in a long time. I think that is, to me, the penultimate metal villain, and he's not worked with fucking nearly enough. Remember him, kids? Look at him up. Let's look him up, shall we? I'll get in trouble. I don't care. I'm crazy like that. I'm crazy. Well, give it to me. Yes. Auto-prompted. That's good. That's a good sign. Somebody's got Jucifer doing an act. Gor Gor versus Jucifer. Yeah, well, this is my show. Somebody, was nice enough to rip a hyperreal performance. It looks like. That's a classic hyperreal production there. Yeah, there's Jucifer. Unfortunately, we didn't get to hear him talk or anything like that, and there was already kind of a fight. But, yeah, I always liked that character a lot. Big mistake we made with it was that we made the lower arms too long. There's this magic spot where you can have arm extensions that are somewhat heavy and move easily with them. But if you just extend your weight out a little too far, suddenly it's like you've got, cement on your arms. You're just like, oh God, you're just dying inside the thing. So yeah, I made Jucifer with Matt McGuire, and Matt McGuire is the only artist I've ever worked with where we can work on the exact same sculpt at the same fucking time. It's yeah. Oh, there goes Jucifer's head. Yeah. When we first were dealing with concepting Jucifer, we were like, of course, we were like immediately thinking, no, we're not going to go for any Nazi propaganda depictions. But at the same time, we did take, visual aspects. I tell you what, though, nothing beat Gor Gor when he was on stilts. But we just gave up on that, basically, after a while. It's just too dangerous to be that extra 12 inches, even though it was just amazing to see. And Scott could do it. He could pull it off, but it was dangerous to be up there, that extra 12 inches. It's a lot of weight. It's probably 150, 175 pounds all told on him right now. You think about the whole structure sticking out behind him, like all that tail there. Our breakthrough was that, we had what was a flagpole, which I will honestly give Scott Krall props for that, is that to base the skull's weight on a flagpole from the crotch area, working, and then we came up with a 360 type of 360 heavy duty steel, ball bearing, whatever connection. It connected down there, but we connected that device to the roof of his mouth, and that's what gave him great movement. Because if we'd have connected it to the base of the neck or some other rigid part of his skull, then when he opened and closed his mouth, the top of his head would have been going up, instead of the lower jaw coming down. Kind of like a small little design, realization made all the difference in the world. And because of that, flagpole design, it gave him his head complete, like, twists, it could move in any direction, basically. It had a lot of range in any direction. Up, down, back, forth, up, twists, left, right, just, That was an expensive piece of kit, I can tell you that. Considering basically how labor you paid people, materials, and the processes we went through. Because we made, the skull was a full-size sculpt. And once again, Dave Muscle, super genius, understood and figured out, his innate engineering ability, realized the amount of weight that what we were going to have to probably put on the armature as clay. Like when you have a 25, 50-pound bag of clay. Once you start spreading it out, it doesn't go very far. And so you can have, basically, you have this skull that you're sculpting of a T-Rex. That thing can go to 1,000 pounds in no time flat. Especially if you have an armature that doesn't fill out the hollow space as well, But, yeah, he built a frame for this thing. And then, of course, we had to do the plaster base. And then finally you do the clay on top of that. And you're grateful that the fucking thing didn't collapse because the weight on there was probably, I think we got 300 pounds. 300 pounds of clay or more on there, right? And then on top of that, then you got to do your plaster once you've got your clay on there. And that's going to add another 100 pounds. So, hats off to Dave Muscle, the unsung hero that wasn't in the doc. Because it'd be easy to overlook that. He worked at the Science Museum as one of their main fabricators. So he was the man. He did the real professional shit. We were clods pushing around fucking wood glue and cloth strips when we met him. Did you guys build those Easter Island heads? Yes, we did. I also do. And you know how we got them across the island? We fucking walked them. You ever see that? I managed to do that with a piano. I was so inspired by how in Easter Island, how they move the heads. Easter Island heads are, you can move them with ropes and you walk them. That was in the legend, supposedly. It's like, how did the Easter Island heads move and get to where they were? And I said, they walked there. These guys didn't do, I don't know if they did the full-sized ones or they did the large ones, just to prove that it was all manageable by humans. Yeah, there we go. So basically, yeah, that's it. There you go, folks. Doesn't that make you feel stupid? What? No flying saucers? No fucking flying saucers. See that, man? We're going to depopulate our island soon. We're going to chop down every tree, make the island arid. We'll all die of starvation, but we'll leave behind a mystery that'll make people think there was UFOs. UFOs did it. UFOs did it.